What if every terror in your mind was a lie? What if the trembling in your chest, the racing pulse, the nights you lay awake, were all cast by your own imagination? Imagine stumbling into history's greatest halls. Aristotle's Lyceum cloaked in whispering ghosts, Buddha's Bodhi tree cracking open under starless skies, Jung's haunted laboratory where nightmares spoke in tongues. They each uncovered a truth so radical, your worst fear never happened. Stay with me, because we're about to shatter the mold of fear and forge a new path through the ruins of the mind. This is the Thought Alchemist, where we heal through the lens of history's most brilliant thinkers. Picture your brain as a cave. Not metaphorical, literal walls slick with damp darkness, shadows flickering from a single fire. This was Plato's lesson. We mistake shadows for reality. Now swap the cave for your skull. Your amygdala glows like that ancient flame, casting nightmares on your cortex. A random message, "We need to talk," becomes a stalking beast. A stranger's glance morphs into silent accusation. You hear footsteps in empty hallways. You feel eyes where there is no one. Imagine sitting alone at midnight replaying every worst-case scenario like a cinema reel. The world outside sparkles with life, but inside your skull, a horror movie never ends. That's fear's power, its ability to project unreality onto your senses. Plato called the unseen world of forms the only true reality. Everything else, a lie. Fear is that lie. A spectral puppeteer pulling your strings. Even your sweetest memories warp into ominous portents under its influence. Consider, each nightmare you dread resides in the cave's shadows. Failure, rejection, insignificance. None exist outside your mind. Yet your body responds. Sweat, tremors, dread. The cave's walls are the neural circuits firing on loop. Today's fire is cortisol. Today's shadows are your memories, your anxieties, your unspoken regrets. And just like Plato's cave, you can walk out, if you dare to touch the world beyond the flame. Before philosophy, before temples, there was trauma. A child's cry in the dark, the first lesson in fear. That scream echoed through time and space, leaving an imprint on the soul deeper than any ink. Trauma doesn't just scar, it teaches. It writes code into the soul. You are not safe. Protect at all costs. That code is our earliest philosophy, a brutal guide etched by pain, fear's manifesto inscribed in our DNA. Neuroscience calls it hypervigilance. Your fight or flight becomes fight or fright, even in safe rooms. The creak of a door, the rustle of a curtain, the echo of laughter. Every mundane sound triggers a cascade of alarms. A broken promise becomes a prophecy of doom. Each echo of old hurt rewires synapses, forging a fortress of dread around the heart. Inside this citadel of fear, you learn to hunker down, build walls, and hide your light. Nietzsche said, "He who fights with monsters should look to it that he himself does not become a monster." But what if the monster you're fighting is a ghost of your own making? A specter born from a wound that never healed, feeding on your vitality. Healing begins when you face the philosopher traitor within, when you confront trauma not as enemy, but as misguided teacher. You unmask its lies. You deserve pain. The world is unsafe. You must shrink to survive. And you reclaim the child who never deserved the fear. You rewrite the code, forging a new philosophy of compassion and courage. Ancient seers whispered of Maya, the great illusion that makes you believe you are a body, a story, a broken mind. In the forest of the Upanishads, they traced the edges of the cosmos only to discover the only reality is consciousness. Vedanta's razor cut through the illusion. Fear is Maya's masterpiece, a veil so thick you can't see the sun. Imagine pulling the veil aside. At first only glare, blinding. You stumble into a void of stark brilliance. Fear roars, resisting the reveal. You grasp at old identities. I am this job, I am that failure. But these anchors snap under the floodlight of awareness. Shankara taught self-inquiry. Who am I? Fear demands you answer what you are. Name, role, label. Self-inquiry strips labels. The dancer falls silent, the mask dissolves. Only pure awareness remains, radiant in its nakedness. In that stillness, the veil dissipates. Fear's script unravels like burnt paper. You realize the cage was a curtain, the prison an illusion. You are not your body, not your scars, not your shame, but the infinite space in which all illusions flicker and fade. Your brain, a prediction engine, it constantly forecasts threats to keep you alive. But what if that engine is broken? Neuroscientists call it predictive coding. The mind uses past patterns to simulate the future. If your last heartbreak felt like drowning, your brain paints every new sorrow as immediate submersion. You feel the weight of water before you even touch the shore. Cortisol spikes. Heart pounds. You run before the moment arrives. You freeze before the event unfolds. You obey a phantom, a ghost written in your neurons. Imagine if you could pause that simulation. Shine a light on the phantom projections. This is a replay. This is a guess. Each time you catch the brain conjuring ghosts, you weaken its terror factory, you remake the map, you hack the nightmare, observe, question, release. Your brain recalibrates, learns the difference between film and flesh. The body relaxes. The mind no longer scatters into worst-case scenarios, but stays rooted in this moment, where reality resides. Fear seduces with control. Master your world, it whispers. So you micromanage appearance, schedule, outcome, like a tyrant clutching power over every detail. Then chaos strikes, illness, loss, rejection. The script unravels. Fear screams betrayal. You double down, tighten your grip, anxiety intensifies, a vicious cycle of dread and desperation. But Sufi mystics taught, die before you die. They stripped all comfort, forced initiates to stand naked in the desert wind. No control, only surrender. That surrender birthed ecstasy, a rapturous freedom beyond fear. When you yield to not knowing, fear loses its feast. The more you struggle, the hungrier it becomes. The moment you release, the monster starves. You discover a fierce calm beneath the storm. Control is fear's final lie. Surrender is your first revolution. In that wild surrender, you reclaim your soul's fierce sovereignty. Carl Jung warned, the shadow you resist grows stronger. Within your darkest fears lies a key to power. Imagine shadow work as spelunking in the soul's underworld. You light a torch. In the blackness, you meet your shame, envy, rage, parts you banish to survive. You feel the sting of self-loathing. You see your wounds reflected in obsidian walls. But these exiles carry gifts, creativity, passion, authenticity. Your mind hid them to protect you from judgment. Yet hiding them starved your soul, dimmed your spark. Jung said, embrace the shadow, shine light on its secrets, integrate its power. Suddenly your fiercest fear, exposure, transforms into freedom. You stand unmasked, eyes blazing with truth. You reclaim your wholeness. You harness despair as creative fuel. The shadow becomes a river of gold beneath your feet. Under the Bodhi tree, Siddhartha faced Mara, the demon of fear. Not with sword, but with unwavering presence. Buddha taught, observe your mind as you observe a lake. Do not swim in the murk. When fear arises, witness it, no reaction. It drifts away like a leaf on water, dissolving at the edges. Mindfulness rewires the pandemic of panic. You become the silent observer, not the terrified victim. You watch thoughts like clouds, emotions like weather patterns. Fear's roar fades into background noise, a distant echo. In stillness, the body relaxes. The mind uncovers its truth. You are not the storm, you are the sky, unmoved by winds of doubt, luminous in infinite space. At the edge of history's wisdom stands one final truth. You are not your fear, not your thoughts, not your story. You are the consciousness that witnesses all. Imagine stepping beyond the stage, beyond the mask, beyond the mind's illusions. You find an empty expanse where fear cannot tread, a vast cathedral of silent light. This is alchemy, turning terror into triumph, darkness into dawn. The thought alchemist invites you to remember your birthright, freedom beyond fear. If your mind trembled at this journey, please like, share, subscribe, and support the channel. Remember, you are not a victim of your illusions, you are the liberator. Thank you so much for watching.